You know that the thing that happens very often in mixing where you just kind of get stuck in an endless cycle of changing things, and almost like it feels like you don't really know which way is up. A lot of that I feel like comes from not doing mix prep in the first place. You're just like, oh, I'm done recording, let's mix this fucking thing. Sometimes you get lucky and that works out, but it's usually best to get everything ready for mixing, and that can help all of your tones and basically set yourself up for success. That's what we're trying to do here. So we're trying to not cross the line into actual mix decisions, things that can be handled in the mixing position rather than where we're at now, which is we're just preparing things. And for me, as someone who works primarily on my own or whatever, part of the way to get through projects is to kind of compartmentalize things a little bit. I'm focused on whatever is in front of me right now rather than trying to be completely scatterbrained or whatever about the entire lifespan of the project. That just kind of makes things easier because you can just laser focus onto the things that matter at that point. I'm at a specific point with a new purpose, so it's kind of like handing off the project to another person, even though it's still us. So that's what I'm trying to do with this mix prep session, is to hand it off to myself, my future self, in the best condition possible. And I think I've mentioned this in an earlier video, but I don't want things to be too perfect and clean. So like for me, it's a little bit more subjective. I don't want things to be super laser perfect. If you leave editing to just like whoever is gonna mix it or whatever, or you just hire it out like, hey, edit this, and you don't really give them any instructions, you're basically you're giving that person control over the production. Like if they go in and completely time align everything visually, that's a sound, so like you need to determine how clean you want to make things, because you don't want the mixer, if that's you, like you don't want to be worrying about that kind of stuff. You want to be worrying about mixing and not worrying about how tight things are. So that's part of mix prep. We are tightening things up as needed. I need to decide if I want to make my vocals perfectly pitched perfectly, like perfectly in tune. That's a production decision because that's a sound. I'm not entirely sure if I want my vocals to be 100% tuned or not. So that's what we are doing here in the mix prep stage. So we're going to check the timing of all of these vocals, and I'm just doing this by ear. I don't really care if it looks like it's in time, because I don't want it to sound like it was edited really. I just want it to sound like some doubled vocals. Like you can hear these are a little bit smeared, these consonant sounds. I'm fucking fine with it, dude. You can see I'm not perfectly on time here. It doesn't need to be perfectly on time. These are performances that's where I was like, yeah, cool, keeper, let's keep that one. So I don't want to come in later and like change shit up. If something sounds off or whatever, like, oh, that's distractingly rushed or that's too far behind, I will fix that. But that's all I'm looking for here. Things that are distractingly misaligned or off time. I heard something here. Hold on. I'm noticing something on the left side, so that's the side I'm gonna fuck with. Oh yeah, I can see that it is behind these other two. So I'm gonna put these little pins. Actually, I don't really need that. I'm just gonna drag this. The other ones are slightly early. Uh-oh, Snap is fighting me. Here we go. Gotta hold command. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see what it sounds like. Much better. I mean, I could still hear some stuff, but it doesn't bother me now. Like if we zoom in, I mean, I don't even have to zoom in. I can see that these aren't perfect. but that's part of it's I want it to sound like a vocal stack, you know what I mean? If I completely line all of that up laser straight, it's just going to sound like one really thick vocal, and that is not what I'm going for. And that's why this is better if it's done by whoever is producing the record. If that's you, you know, you should probably be doing this, and then when you send this to a mixer, be like, yo, I edited the vocals, they are exactly how I want them to sound, please do not edit them. And then that way they don't visually line everything up or try to make it super perfect, and then you get things back and it's like, dude, what the fuck, what happened? It sounds really good and clean, but it sounds kind of dead for some reason. It might be because they over-edited your shit. This one either. So a lot of times, if I have layers, I'll just keep an inhalation or a breath on just one of the layers. Because if they don't line up, it sounds weird. I mean, you can line them up if you need to. But generally, I just delete them because you don't normally need doubled breaths unless you really want to emphasize that. Then you can, time align it and make it sound like one. But if it's overlapping, I don't need that fucking breath in there. That's just extra shit that might, it doesn't need to be there. Another thing I will need to do in this is I'm probably going to want to take these overlaps and make sure that, like, when I should drop these by a couple dB whenever the new line comes in, just to make sure that you can hear this come in. Because the new information is more important than what's already started. Your brain already knows that. So you can kind of drop or kind of do like a side chain thing, but normally I just do that with automation. Drop these when this comes in. Actually, I don't know. I might want to toy with cleaning this up just see how it sounds. Because right now I don't really hate it, but I also don't really love it. So I'm just gonna tighten it up visually and see if we like the sound better. Whoa. I don't know. I actually don't like it. Undo. Okay. I kind of prefer it to be kind of loose that way in this instance because I want this to be kind of like a background thing. I don't want it to be too precise. Oh, here's a good example. Like some people will say like, oh, you shouldn't have to double your vocals, do everything in one take. I don't know why. Who gives a fuck how you do your fucking vocals? This is an example of where just do whatever the fuck you want. Because I want this to sound like this, and I want this to sound like this. Who gives a fuck? Why would I limit myself to only doing one layer? You can see how these sound different right here. And it's not really, I wouldn't really say that one sounds better than the other. I want this to sound this way on this part, and I want this to sound this way on this part. And it's mostly about that, little bit of smeariness and the blur. It's not really about thickening it up. It's just about getting that little bit of smear. And I mean, it's a subjective thing. If you don't like that smear, then don't fucking do it. Stick to one track. But as long as it's for a valid reason, and it's because you don't like the end result, don't just be you've got some sort of ego thing, and you're like, oh, I never double my parts because I don't know, it makes me look not tough or something. I don't fucking know. Just do whatever you want. Whatever sounds good. Whatever sounds good, whatever you want. There's no fucking rules. Fart into a mic. It's fine. So yeah, this is the the thing. I'm not going to call it a trick because it's not a trick. It's like a caveman way of doing a delay throw or like a repeat. Traditionally, you would send a group of vocals or whatever, or one vocal, however many you want to do. You send it to an effect bus with a delay on it, like this. There you go. That's a fucking ping pong thing. You normally write automation to that so that, you do that thing and then it saves that move for you. And then that's a classic delay throw. You kind of throw it out there. This is like an extremely caveman way of doing things where I literally took this or some of these layers from the clip here and then just duplicated them on the bar line and gradually reduced their volume via clip gain. It's only going to work if your tracks are already compressed. These are compressed on the way in. If you're feeding a compressor with these, this clip gain is not going to react properly. And you're like, why the fuck aren't these fading out? It's because you're running them through a compressor. Sometimes it's faster just to do this, manually duplicate the part and do your fade outs than to try to fine tune the settings on whatever your delay is. Okay, so this one, I don't really like the smeariness, so I'm going to fucking tighten these up. And just kind of looking at them, you got to pick one. They don't have to be perfectly on the grid. In my opinion, they don't have to be perfectly on time with the grid, but I want them to be tighter with each other, so I just need to pick one as a guide. I'm going to pick the top one just because that's how I read, a newspaper or something. If I were to read a newspaper, I would start at the fucking top. So there we are. We've picked our fucking guide. And then now we start manipulating our one that is not the guide. And I'm just doing it here. If I were planning on changing the pitch, I might think twice about stretching this stuff, because sometimes adjusting the timing with a stretching algorithm can make a tuning algorithm very confused. But these aren't pitched vocals, so I'm not worried about it. Let's hear this. So right now in this rough mix, these vocals are totally clashing and fighting. You can hear the other vocals. See how they pop back up? I think I have too much compression somewhere. But it's not on these group levels. It's somewhere. Yeah, it's somewhere downstream. So that is something I will not want to have printed because it's fucked up. Everything sounds good until these S's at the end of survives. So we can put anchor points or an anchor point on vi. Put an anchor point there to isolate our edit. That sounds good to me. Moving on. These aren't lined up visually. Let's see if there's a problem here. No, it's fine. I can hear it. Yeah, they're not lined up, but it's not fucking bothering me. Cool. All right. So you may notice I don't have things in solo because I'm not trying to find problems. Because if I go looking for problems, I'm going to fucking find them. And the goal isn't to make these absolutely spotless. I want the mix to sound how I want it to mix. I'm not trying to clean up messes that aren't actual messes, if that makes sense. So that concludes checking the timing for the vocals. So I get the timing down and then I can start working on tuning. If there's, you may have noticed I didn't worry too much about the timing on the melodic parts because I don't want to tune stuff that's been stretched. So some of these have like, there's a pitch there, but I don't think I'm gonna tune them. Because it's not really like a singing part. It's just kind of, I'm throwing some tone in there. And I don't, like, if I make that super perfect, I think that's going to be weird. The parts that I'm mostly concerned about tuning are things like this. And I might not even actually change anything. I mostly just want to like double check it. And like, if I'm off, like how far am I off? Let's just check it out. I'm gonna have to do it by ear because most of it's a little dirty. What I mean by doing it by ear is a lot of times with like kind of grittier vocals like these, it just doesn't want to track the pitch very accurately. So you can't really rely on it, and you can't really use a visual snapping sort of thing. So oftentimes you just got to compare it to something and loop that part, and then you just kind of move you change the pitch until it sounds the most in tune. A little tighter. So certain things, I don't want to try to tune them all perfect because there's some like a little bit of character in there where really like it's the intent isn't to be like on a perfect pitch. It's like I'm trying to do kind of like a character voice or something. And I don't imagine this character really giving too much of a fuck about certain notes. It's mainly certain like landing points that I want to be in tune. Like this one, this 4. Sounds a little bit extra pathetic. I want it to sound a little bit pathetic, you know? The other sounds in the background, I want those to be like big, scary things overpowering this tiny little, pathetic little vocal. Okay, cool. Vocals are ready to go to mixing. Cool. Right, so guitars and bass are cool on that one. I'm ready to sign off on that. Let's check these. There's a little bit of like left and right discrepancy, but I think I'm fucking fine with it. It's fine. Cool. All right, so I'm good with everything. I just want to double check the drums, like the velocities and all the any last minute things I need to change in the Midi before I print the drums to audio. Here we go. Cool. Drums are done. All right, so that wraps up mix prep. Now I'm just gonna print stems or multitracks. I'm gonna try to cram them into stems and commit a little bit, you know what I mean? Okay, we have the drum stems printing. These are without the effects, so I will be able to feed them back into these same groups from this template and have this starting point mix. Okay, so now I have printed drums and reference mix stems. I will organize these later. I should probably also save the Midi. Boom. Okay, got the Midi locked in. So I'm just going to do bass, these rhythm guitars, and that's fucking it for now. Bounce. Yep. Okay, now I'm printing the extra guitars, programming, and post-production for the feed. Okay, it's going to be a lot of tracks here, and go. Then I'm going to do the same thing for dark stabs, and then we will just have vocals to print. All right, now we need to print vocals, vocal stems, vocal group 2 wide, vocal group 2 2, vocal group 2 1. These are all feeding into this, but I'm going to print them as stems. Start queue export. Now we have printed all of the stems for future use. If I ever need to remix this or whatever, I can come back to all of the production decisions that have been made so far on these two songs. They're all baked into these stems that I just printed. See you later.